Hey everybody, happy Veterans Day. This is Steve Kazanewski coming at you on a Friday evening. Um, oh, there we go. Alright, we're going live now. If you are watching me live, you have any comments or questions, or just want to be part of the conversation, go ahead and put them in the comment section over there. I will answer them. I would love to know if you are listening and what you are excited about right now. If you are watching this later on YouTube, TikTok, or wherever else I might be posting it, obviously live participation will no longer be possible. Anyway, the last time I came at you, I was talking to you guys about a couple of events that I did in October. This is October of 2023, if you are coming at this video much, much later. Um, so this has been my busiest spooky season of all time, which is good. I think I've done a total of 6 events, all considered. Some of them were local to where I am in central Pennsylvania. Some of them were quite as far away as Haverhill, Massachusetts, which is almost Boston. A good solid 8-9 hour drive for me. And Richmond, Virginia was one of the other further out there events, and that was this past weekend. So, first of all, before we get started and going into all that, like I said, Saturday is Veterans Day, tomorrow is Veterans Day observed, and I've been kind of making it a tradition since release that I'm putting my novel Broken Down Heroes of the Western Night for free during the month of November. So I am keeping that up this month. So if you have not checked out Broken Down Heroes, it's funny, it's a little sad, it's semi autobiographical. It's also kind of a rumination on the storytelling culture within the army that I grew up with, that I felt like is almost never captured in war novels and war movies because they're always much more focused on the action. Whereas a lot of the time that you spend in the Army or Navy or any of the armed forces is spent learning how to not be a shithead. And a lot of that comes out through storytelling, which may or may not be apocryphal. One assumes generally it is, but with a grain of truth. So this story is set with 2 soldiers doing funeral detail, burying veterans, and handing the flag over throughout Oklahoma, which was something that I did in 2005, 2006 time frame. And they just to get through it all, they tell each other stories. So again, that's free for this month. I hope you'll pick it up. I've seen it go as high as number 2 on the humorous literary fiction list, which I've never seen this rank very highly before. It's actually, if not my worst selling, then one of my worst selling novels. And there's a simple reason for that. It's not horror. It's not science fiction. It's not really in my wheelhouse for marketing. I was sort of hoping that it would essentially market itself. I don't know what to do with it. All of the people that I market to are horror and sci-fi readers. I don't really and I don't think that the kind of people that would consider themselves literary fiction readers are going to Facebook for that. I think they're more going to, the New York Times or whatever, you know, to find the sort of books that they like to read. So this has been a really tough sell, but like I say, I'd love to get the word out there. I'd love to get some more veterans to look at it and see if it helps reflect their experience, and see if it talks to them. The people that I know that have read it have really enjoyed it. So grab a copy for free on Amazon, and tell your friends. So that is the giveaway for November that is going on right now. And the 2 events that I wanted to talk about. So they were both this weekend. It came hard and fast this weekend. And if I sound a little stuffy or a little messed up, it is because I did indeed get sick this weekend from being around so many people. Um, some combination of meeting people in Richmond, Virginia, meeting people in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I shook the wrong hand or ate the wrong donut or whatever. So I apologize if I sound a little bit off today. Um, I'm okay. I'm getting over it. I'm getting better. It hasn't really affected my day job or anything like that, so no big deal. Um, but that's also a good thing because it means that both events were quite crowded with people. So the first event was the Halloween Hangover in Richmond, Virginia. So if you're paying attention, as I'm recording this video, and probably by the time it gets up on YouTube and everything else, it is Thursday, November 9th. So this past weekend would have put us the Friday, November 3rd, Saturday the 4th, and then Ghoulastic was uh, Guy Fawkes Day, November 5th. Excuse me. Yes, I am still drinking coffee at 20 after 7 in the evening. My uh, editor and oftentimes collaborator over in the UK, Kaylee Dobbs, will probably be happy with me. Since I was sick all day yesterday, I did nothing but drink tea. I drank every kind of tea that we had in the house and kept boiling tea all day. And I remembered why I hate Irish breakfast so much, but I still stand by all the other stuff we have now. I even got into one of the chamomiles, and I don't care for chamomile. I don't care for Irish breakfast, but I had them both yesterday just to spice up my life. Anyway, um, so I took off on Friday the 3rd. That was when the event began, and it was later on in the afternoon. So from central Pennsylvania to Richmond, Virginia, is apparently a wild, random amount of time. And I know this because I've done Scares That Cares and its various connected events in Williamsburg, Virginia, many, many times. And depending on the time of day that you leave, depending on whether you hit the Beltway traffic in Washington and everything else, that can take anywhere from like less than 4 hours, maybe not less than 4 hours to Williamsburg, but like 4 hours to 8 hours, depending on traffic and that sort of thing. So uh, I got up very early on Friday the 3rd, and I drove down to Brian Keene's house, and we met up there with Brian, Mary San Giovanni, his wife, and Wesley Southard, another local author and good friend of mine. And we all took off together. So we were planning to just stay overnight the one night, being Friday, and come back on Saturday because we all had the Ghoulastic Book Festival on Sunday, so we needed to be back for that. And being as it was over around 6 p.m. on Saturday, that would have put us home at, again, varies, but probably 10, 11. And it's a very reasonable night, which is also the night of daylight savings, so we would have all picked up an hour. So we drove down. I'm trying to think. I don't believe we made any stops. Yeah, actually, we drove straight through to Richmond. And when we got to Richmond, we did what Wesley always does, which is to get barbecue. Big barbecue fan, this guy. Um, which, to be fair, barbecue in Virginia is probably better than barbecue in Pennsylvania. So that's hard to argue with. I know people across the South like to bicker about it. I really don't give a shit. It's all just meat and, cornbread to me, so whatever. Um, so we went to, I can't remember the name of the place, but we went to a barbecue place in Virginia, and the food was pretty good. And then we headed over to the hotel, dropped off our stuff, and then we headed over to the Halloween Hangover. So the point being, it's a couple of days after Halloween. I guess Halloween was on what, Wednesday this year? Or Tuesday rather. So this was the Friday after Halloween, so it's the Halloween hangover in case you haven't gotten enough of your horror. And if you're not like us weirdos that live horror every day of our lives, some folks get excited by officially acknowledging that and having another horror event. So the this was held at the Libby Place Barnes and Nobles down there in Richmond, Virginia, and that's actually interesting. I've never signed in a bookstore before. Um, no, that's not true. I've signed in an indie bookstore. I signed at the York Emporium once. I've certainly never signed at a Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Nobles are very tricky to get into. I don't know much about the internal politics of it. What little I know of it is that for indie authors such as myself, as opposed to Jason Pargin or Clay McCloud Choplin or whoever you want to pick out who is publishing with the Big Five New York publishers that are getting you into bookstores. For someone like me, where Amazon, who I publish through, is the enemy of Barnes and Noble, makes sense that Barnes and Noble would not want to have you in their store. So I thought it was, however, that being said, local Barnes and Nobles managers have some degree of autonomy, and since I also publish my stuff on Barnes and Noble to the extent that I can't control what my publishers do, the people that are over me, but my stuff that I self-publish through French Press, I can of course control where they're published, and then some of that is through Barnes and Noble. So I went through my backlist and I picked out four of the titles that were either published through Barnes and Noble by me personally or by my publisher, and I was able to, appear at a Barnes and Noble with Barnes and Noble books, which I've never been offered the opportunity before. So it was very exciting. I sat down. So we come in. There's a lot of great people there. I apologize. I'm always going to preface this by saying, if I do not mention your name, it is not because I'm a jerk and not because I didn't enjoy our conversation. It is just that I don't want to turn this into a, hour-long name-dropping contest, and then it's like, did I drop the names of the most famous people there to look like a big man? Or, did I just forget your name? So I apologize if I didn't mention you, and we had a great conversation. Um, if you are not a published author or a public figure, I am not going to mention you, generally speaking. I may describe you as so and so's wife or such a waitress or whatever. But again, I don't want this to just turn into a 20-minute name dropping discussion. But that being said, um, there was a bunch of people there. Daniel Kraus, who's recently had great success with Whalefall, was there, and I got to chat with him a little bit. And Michael Seidlinger, who I think I'd only really met at Merrimack Book Festival, and we'd only really like quote unquote met last year when I was moderating I believe it was an extreme horror panel. And so you can just imagine, hey, I'm your moderator. Like, that's about the extent that we got to speak. But this year at the Halloween Hangover, we got to speak quite a bit. Really talented guy. And I sat next to J.S. Furlong on the one side. I was actually tripled up the first day. I was next to J.S. Furlong on the one side and Vaughn Jackson on the other side. And Max Booth was there. He drove down quite a ways. Drove up from his perspective. Something like 25 hours from Texas to Virginia. So, I mean, God bless him. And I understand that. I understand that delicate balance there, which I'm going to go through later this year. I'm going to be doing at least one, if not more, uh, events this year that I'm going to have to fly to. I'm not sure I want to announce any of them. I mean, I'll go ahead and say I'm going to be at St. Louis Scares That Cares Author Con because I've already confirmed everything for that. The other events are not quite yet confirmed, so I don't want to nail them down. But for instance, when I fly to St. Louis, am I going to pack up 50 books in my overhead? Am I going to pack up 50 books that might get lost under the plane? Am I going to ship them ahead of time to the hotel and hope they don't get lost by the hotel? Like it's a whole series of things. And driving to, in my case, St. Louis, it's probably 12, 15 hours. Is that really a drive I want to make? Then you're adding on hotels and road expenses and everything else. So I certainly understand. And, Cthulhu, bless him, Max Booth made the drive up. Very cool to see him. I don't think I've seen him since probably. It was that Scares That Cares where we all wore the Hawaiian shirts. And I remember it was before those fucking asshole Boogaloo guys ruined Hawaiian shirts for everybody else. But the one year, right before the fucking fascists got a hold of it, we got everybody at Scares That Cares to wear Hawaiian shirts. And I remember, I think Max wore like a, what was it, pineapples or something? It was very, very in keeping with the Hawaiian shirt theme. Yeah, can't do that no more. Thanks, fucking fascists. Yeah, I mean, that's the least of the things that the fucking fascists have done to this country. But anyway, weird that I keep bringing up fascists, isn't it? We may get back to that in a minute. If you have looked at the show notes, that may be a little hint towards one of the things that's coming up in the show notes. So anyway, um, Friday evening was actually not bad. Um, I probably sold 7 or 8 books, which for me, for a Friday evening, is very good. Definitely, this was an area where I have not done sales before. I've certainly, like I said, I've never been in this venue before, this particular venue or this sort of venue. You have to assume that people that are coming into a bookstore like books. But it surely felt like most of the folks that were coming in came in because of the event and were not just randomly roaming around the Barnes& and Noble on a Friday night. But no doubt some of them were as well. So things went very well that evening, and then sorry, Friday night was the night that we stayed over. So we hopped back in the car, which again, God bless Wesley for driving us. Me, Brian, and Mary, who are loud and obnoxious at the best of times. So we all hopped back into the car and we went to Wes's favorite pizza place, which is in Virginia called. Oh, that one I remember. It's Mellow Mushroom. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the barbecue place. I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments at some point. By someone I mean Wes. Wes will probably get a hold of this and remind me. Um, so we went to this place called Mellow Mushroom, and the only thing I know about Mellow Mushroom, I can't remember if I've told this story before. I might have told it on one of the AuthorCon autopsies. But the last time that I went to Mellow Mushroom, I remember I walked in and they had a stand set aside for the pickup orders. I walked to the little guy, and his whole job, not to diminish it, it's good work, but literally his entire job is you walk up to him, you say, "I have a pickup order," and he hands it to you, takes your money, or doesn't take the money if it's paid ahead. Pardon me. Like I said, still sick. Um, so yeah, this was not on Friday night, but this is a funny story about Mellow Mushroom. I walk in. This is Wesley again sending me in. I walk up to the counter and I say, "Hey, I got 4 pies for Wesley." And the kid looked at me like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm here to pick up 4 pies. They're under Wesley Southard." And the kid, like, he backed up like I was like holding a gun on him or something, and went and got his manager. And the lady comes out and she's like, "I'm sorry, sir. What's the issue here?" And I was like, "I'm here for a pickup order. You got 4 pies under Wesley Southard." And she looks at me and she's like furrows her brow and she's like, Oh, pizza pies? Is that what you're calling them? And so that was how I learned that apparently you don't call pizza pie in Virginia. And a few people have chimed in to me since I've recounted that story and said, that's purely a Philadelphia. That's just Philadelphia. You would know that if you had grown up anywhere else. So, anyway, I found that to be an extremely amusing story. But back to Friday night at Mellow Mushroom, everything went very well. They did great work there in Richmond, Virginia. And then we headed over to meet up with the other authors at an Irish pub. I can't remember the name of the Irish pub either. I should have written all this stuff down. Um, but we went to an Irish pub, and you could tell it was authentic because there was actually a bunch of Irish guys um, in the same room as us, and they were all singing. It's the song I only know from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's like, when you walk through the storm, hold your head up high. Um, but over in Ireland and the UK, they sing that at every soccer game. And again, I only know that from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but they were doing it. So I was like, huh, that's interesting. We're at an Irish pub frequented by drunk Irish guys. That probably means it's a pretty good pub. So I got to catch up with Jeremy McGargy there and Jess McHugh and met a couple other people there. So we actually got to do the kind of the con thing, despite, obviously the host not being a hotel. Um, so we hung out there for a couple hours. I guess somebody was saying that the pub was supposed to be haunted, and shockingly, no ghost showed up during our time there. I know, I'm sure you're all as shocked as I am. Um, so the next day was the big day at Halloween Hangover. So we all headed over, checked out of the hotel, headed over to the Libby Place Barnes and Noble, and the setup had kind of changed. Like we were in Cube 2, Hypercube, or the original Cube, whichever one you prefer. But the setup had changed because people come in and people come out. Um, so we were decoupled. So Vaughn Jackson was then sitting with, I want to say, Alma Katsu had shown up at that point. And I was with still J.S. Furlong, but a couple of other people had come in. And so business was really robust. It was really, really a good event. I sold a ton of books. I think I might have been talking about this during my last live. Um, I just finished working on a screenplay version of The Thing Under Your Bed. So actually, when I wrote The Thing Under Your Bed, my intention was to write something which could easily be adapted to for the screen. But I didn't want to sit on it. I have way too many, frankly, unsaleable screenplay. For instance, Horseman, which some of you have picked up the limited edition Horseman, which was literally just a script that I did in college. But there's just not that much that you can do with scripts on spec in this industry. So I was like, okay, you have an idea, put it out as a novel or novella, and then if there is interest, convert it into a script. So I put that novella out. I've talked to a couple of filmmakers since then, and finally the impression I was starting to get was there's only so far that you can talk with somebody. I guess what you want to get them to is have them say, send me the script. So I was like, all right, let's just get the script ready. Whoever else I talk to, when they get to that point where they say, okay, I'm ready, send me the script, I'll just have it ready and I can do that. So I just finished, yeah, like right before I went to Halloween Hangover, I just finished the script version of The Thing Under Your Bed. And I sat down with John Edward Lawson. Yeah, back to the name dropping, right? Um, I sat down with John Edward Lawson, who He's currently the president of the HWA, which, oh, by the way, if I didn't mention it in my last live, I have gotten confirmation I've been accepted into the HWA. First time in my life as a full member. I even asked John Edward Lawson, I was like, I don't know what I am. I'm whatever the maximum tier is. You guys accepted me by mistake, I think, as the top level tier. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what those all are anymore. Bill Fisher says, hello all. Hello, Bill. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So John Edward said, that's a funny question. Is that like a tune? Is that like John Wayne Comunale? Is it a double name or is it just John? I'll ask him next time I see him. Anyway, what I wanted to do was I wanted to sit down with John Edward Lawson and ask him about pitching scripts and what that process looks like because I really don't know anything about it. Like I said, I approached a couple people. I had a couple of lucky breaks of people approaching me, and I had the thing under your bed in my back pocket, and nothing has come of it so far. But so I was like, okay, now that I have this, how do I go about, getting this made? So we had a really nice discussion about that. I won't bore you with all the details, but he gave me a lot of good pointers, so I really appreciate that. So yeah, sorry to Raw Dog Screaming Press for blocking up your table while I had your editor in chief, uh, buttonholed there for probably half an hour or so. Um, I also got to chat with J.S. Furlong and Michael Seidlinger, like I mentioned. It's really good all around. I love going to events like this. I love getting different perspectives and this sort of thing. So I don't know about my compatriots, but when I walked into the Barnes and Noble that morning, I was already exhausted. I'd been up since 6 a.m. the day before, traveled, across the county, then, to a different state, and not much sleep, and out late, the night before and everything else, which is probably great for your immune system, right? So by the time 6 p.m. rolled around, and I had actually made some really decent sales. So thanks to the managers at the Barnes & Noble Libby Place, and again, I would mention your names, but I don't think you're public figures, so thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope I'll be invited back in the future. I've tried to share the event, as much as humanly possible, and I'm still talking about it now, uh, because it was a very, very good event, very well organized, well put together. I know you guys, I've went out of pocket on a lot of stuff yourselves, and I appreciate that. That's really cool to know that there are booksellers that think the business of selling books is, more important than, anything else. So that's really cool to still see that that's out there today. So, anyways, I was exhausted when I walked into the building. So, get around to 6 p.m. We all pile into the car for Wes to drive us home. I think everybody was wiped, especially Wes, and I kept going like this to try and keep him awake on the ride home. I'm joking, of course, but we were trying to keep talking, and we're getting more and more ridiculous. And one of the things that Wes hates is Wes hates joy, especially the joy of cartoons. So we kept quoting cartoons at him and making him madder and madder, but that kept him awake. So for his safety and everyone else's safety, frankly, Wes's family should send us a fruit basket in gratitude for keeping him alive and well by quoting Family Guy, ad infinitum at him. Um, but probably about, and this is again like a 4 hour drive, but probably about 10, 15 minutes into the drive, at some point, somebody mentioned Taco Bell. And Mary San Giovanni hates Taco Bell. Everybody else in the car, myself included, it's their favorite thing. I love Taco Bell. I remember when I was stuck at Fort Knox, Kentucky, that was all I ate for a solid month. My shit was magnificent. It was like green, not like normal shit color. Um, but no, I love the hell out of some Taco Bell. I'll eat some chalupas and some 5-layer burritos. The only thing I won't eat at Taco Bell is the things that taste like Doritos, because goddamn, like, what is that? Like, why do people? I don't even understand why people eat Doritos. They're disgusting. But anything else that's going on at a Taco Bell, uh, I will eat the shit out of. And I'm already making myself hungry for it again. I guess it's not too late. Maybe I could still make it to Taco Bell tonight. But anyway, about 10, 15 minutes into this 4-hour drive, we start talking about Taco Bell. And Mary's like, no, no, I'll not have it. And the rest of us are talking it up the whole time. And we just can't stop talking about Taco Bell. And every time we pass an exit, we're like, we should stop there and get to Taco Bell. And then we never did. It was horrendous. It was like this hellish game we were playing on ourselves. We never got the fucking Taco Bell. And, which I mean is good from Mary's perspective that she never had to break down and have some. But for the rest of us, it was, like this crazy ongoing thing. I'm going to have to reach out to Brian and Wesley and see if they ever actually got their Taco Bell. I haven't. I have not gotten any this week yet. So maybe tomorrow. I'll find out if Taco Bell has a Veterans Day special. Um, so, like I said, we got home around quite late that night, 10, 11 time frame. Ready to turn around and do it all again on Sunday with a little bit of a difference. Now, the Ghoulastic Book Festival, which is run at the JB Love Drafts, which is a brew pub in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and it's run by Mike Lombardo and Chris Enterline, who are they are public figures. They're authors, good friends again of all of us. Um, but what's different about this event is that the authors don't stand behind the tables. So if you remember the old Scholastic Book Fair, and I mean, I feel like I missed out. I remember this a little bit. I remember being in grade school and they started doing this thing, but I gather that it was a much bigger deal to the people that are like 4 or 5 years younger than me. That like this was like their lives like centered around this book event, and I guess that's like I know I'm dating myself. I remember like Bunnicula and shit from the 80s, and they're all talking about, oh, this is where I got all my goosebumps, and this is where I got my scary stories to tell in the dark and shit like that. So I feel a little dialed out of the whole Scholastic book fair, and also, didn't have any money when I was a kid, so it wasn't like I could exactly go ape shit, even if there was a Scholastic book fair. But yeah, they're like, oh, you get the posters and you get the erasers and this and that. And I'm like, all right, okay. I don't have all this nostalgia for it. I remember it, but it's not like, this keystone, lodestar of my life. Anyway, point being, normal convention, you stand behind your table and you do your sales pitch, and people walk by, and here's what I do. I say, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm okay. All right. Hey, you interested in anything in particular? Well, I like vampires. Oh, vampires? We might like Hunter of the Dead. I got a vampire for you. Here you go. Um, all the way up to like the very hard sales pitch, which some people can go through. Um, but with the Scholastic Book Fair, they separated the authors out. Authors are not allowed to go near the tables. They just put the books down on the tables, and people browse at their leisure, like at the old Scholastic Book Fair. R.L. Stein, or I don't remember who wrote Bunnicula. You people probably don't even know what that is, do you? I had fucking Gavin Dillinger. I'm trying to help mentor Gavin Dillinger, who has told me he wants to transition from comic books to prose, which, yeah, all right, good call on that, Gav. Um, he was busting my chop. He reached out to me and asked me about double spacing after a sentence. I didn't go evangelizing. I was just like, it makes sense. One space after a word, two spaces after a sentence, line break after a paragraph, page break after a chapter. What could be more sensible? I don't understand this single spacing thing. It makes no sense. It's ugly. But I wasn't like evangelizing. He just asked my opinion. And he's like, "Oh, way to go, old man. Way to, hang on to your old styles." I'm like, fuck you, buddy. Um, So, yeah, I cannot remember who the author of Bunnicula was. It was a husband and wife team, I want to say. Anyway, R.L. Stine, J.K. Rowling, whoever, did not stand behind the table at the Scholastic Book Fair at every elementary school in America and give you the hard sell or the soft sell of their books. You just looked around. So that is the goal of the Ghoulastic Book Fair. And then the authors all sit off to one side, and we are available to sign your books if so requested. Um, I am also shocked. I was less shocked this year. I was completely shocked last year at how few people wanted signed books. So this is like the low anxiety, low stress event of the year. If you don't get out of your house, you don't like talking to people, Ghoulastic is the thing for you. You just go and you browse books, and you don't have to talk to anybody except the cashier. And you can probably limit your interactions with them. So that was really cool. And again, this was a whole different, pretty much a whole different animal from the Halloween Hangover. McGargy was there again. Brian and Mary and Wesley were there again. Enter Lionel Lombardo were there. I know John Bowden was there. Richard Poff and Matt Wildison and Nathan Ludwig. Yeah, a lot of people were there. Now I actually debuted a book at this event, and I did not announce it, and I have not announced it, and I have not really made a big fuss about it yet, because it's NaNoWriMo right now. I am NaNoWriMoing my ass off. In fact, I'm kind of avoiding doing it right now by doing this live, but I felt like I wanted to get in and get a live done before the overwhelming weight of the world comes crushing down on me. But I did not advertise this, but I had a debut book, a book that's not even out yet. And that is We All Live in a Fascist Police State Now, thanks to this one fucking guy. This made its debut at the Ghoulastic Book Fair. It was not one of the four novels uh, that I got from Barnes & Noble. I just saw this for the first time last week, I want to say. Um, I ordered it for myself. I I have not yet released it. It will be released on Black Friday or maybe Thanksgiving Day. What day is the 23rd? 23rd. Okay, Thanksgiving Day. So this will be released on Black Thursday for all of you that are going Christmas shopping. That's, again, we all live in a fascist police state now thanks to this one fucking guy. Probably the title where you're going to prefer to look up Kazanowski. So, what is this about? Uh, Horror, kinda. It's more closer to a dystopia, like what I did with Billy and the Clonosaurus, although it's very much about fascism. It's very much about American fascism. It's very much about how I foresee fascists justifying things to themselves. I did some research on this. I'm not going to act like I'm a scholar or anything, but what I know about fascism is that I remember there's a quote about World War II, which is that the nature of evil is very banal. That these men are just ordinary men. They just think of themselves as doing a job. And I was intrigued by the idea of someone who would be a secret policeman, sort of like a member of the Gestapo or the KGB, someone who could knock on any door in the middle of the night and terrify the people that were within. And he would essentially have ultimate power. He would be a figure like unto Tony Soprano or Dexter Morgan, somebody who has to answer to no one, but has to lead kind of a double life. So, in my story at least, the stormtrooper, the not the stormtroopers, the secret police have to disguise themselves. And I actually wrote this around the time that the Watchmen remake on HBO was coming out. Very popular, well received TV show a few years back, and I found they were talking about a lot of the same stuff. I don't believe in all this, psychic vampire, I stole your idea. Like, yeah, okay, I'm sure I can prove that I was writing this before. If you want to bitch about who came up with the idea for it's all very unimportant to me. But yes, I was in the middle of writing this when I watched the Watchmen remake, and I saw they were talking a lot about how the police had to wear masks because of the nature of policing in that universe, and it was touching on a lot of the stuff that I was talking about in Well, Live in a Fascist Police State. Um, but I feel like there's room enough in the world to discuss that, in several ways. And of course, who knows when those scripts were written? I'm sure they could also prove that their scripts were written long before I started work on this, etc., etc. Like I said, uh, I'm not the kind of person that's going to say, "Oh yeah, I came up with it before HBO did." Blah blah blah. Um, it's probably just something that was in the zeitgeist. Well, shockingly, fascism was in the zeitgeist in the Trump era. I mean, can you believe it? So, yeah, so I released this story actually earlier this year on Kindle Vella as kind of an experiment. I'm not going to call it a failed experiment, but I know that nobody has read this book. If you've ever felt bad because you released a book and you felt like not too many people read it, uh, I know from statistical proof that literally no one has gotten through this book yet. That's kind of a joke because on Vella it is released by chapter, and no one has gotten to the last chapter. So that was kind of a debacle and a disaster. But I got a few bucks for it for the people that did make it through the first few chapters. Maybe I got some eyes on. I don't know. Anyway, it's out now, November 23rd. It's going to be available in paperback and ebook for your Christmas shopping. So buy this for that anti-fascist in your life, or that person who just loves, a good kind of dystopian thriller and can deal with a little bit of satire. So, yeah, the Ghoulastic Book Festival was where this debuted. Um, I had another splendid day there. Just sales were just amazing. Chris and Michael put on a great show. They have 2 years in a row now. Um, I don't know what next year will hold. I mean, I think there is going to be another one. I say I don't know what it will hold because I don't know if there will be more than one. I don't know if this is the sort of thing that can stand up to occurring multiple times a year. I'd certainly love to do it twice a year, but there's also something to be said for not, saturating the market. But yeah, the event was really cool. Again, got to hang out with a bunch of really cool people. John Urbansick and Jess Epley. Um, Daniel Volpe was there. I don't get to see him nearly as often as I'd like to. He came in all the way from New Jersey. Um, yeah, we got to chat quite a bit about some inside baseball stuff. So yeah, another really cool event, and that's it. That's it for me. Like I said, I've already turned into a pumpkin. Uh, Actually, took longer for me to turn into a pumpkin this year than usual because between the events taking me out to the 5th of November and then being sick this week, I'm trying to get caught up on Nano. So I'm more or less caught up. Oh yeah, hey, if you're doing Nano this year, make sure to go ahead and friend me. It's either Redleg or Kosnewski. I'm sure you can find me if you search for Kosnewski, but yeah, definitely friend me. Nano. I don't want to talk about Nano at length on this video. I already feel like I've kind of talked too long. But the one thing I don't like about Nano is that it doesn't seem to have a really good buddy system. Like you friend people, and then the next year you're not friends anymore, and you have to beg people to be friends again, and then people drop on and drop off, and there's no like kind of central. It's not great from a social media perspective. And like the main thing that drives me during Nano is beating Armand Rosamilia. I mean, I'll just be frank. Uh, if I can stay ahead of Armand Rosamilia, I know I'm not failing as a human being. So like that's my main thing in life is checking and seeing how Armand is doing. And he thankfully is game every year. But with other folks, I can like lord it over them and be like, "Oh ha ha ha! I've got twice as many words as you." With Armand, it's just like, you got to stay neck and neck. But like with everybody else, like I'm up here and they're like down here. So I mean, and that gives great pleasure to a narcissist such as myself. Um, I mean, not as much as I imagine it gives to a narcissist like Armand, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. Um, and again, if you don't have any money this month, grab Broken Down Here is the Western Night. That is going to be free for Veterans Day month, Veterans Month. That'll be free through November over on the Evil Empire. And speaking of Evil Empires, new release, We All Live in a Fascist Police State Now, thanks to this one fucking guy. Uh, will be released officially on Thanksgiving Day for all of your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, whatever Christmas purchases. So, let's see. Any other comments or questions? Seems like everybody's getting to their Veterans Day Eve business. So, thanks everybody, and we will catch up with you next time. Oh, I can't remember. Did I come up with a sign off or something? Oh, yeah. No, I don't think I ever did come up with one. All right. Back to the branding mines I will go and work on my branding. But hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I will catch you next time.